This is a jig fly. This is a very basic jig fly. It's made from bucktails, a bit of crystal flash, that's it. It's super simple. This is a 2-gram jig head, and I fish this pretty often. It's very effective on almost everything that I throw it at. Typically I fish for peacock bass here in Singapore, and this is a very effective fly. In fact, I fish a lot of soft rubbers as well as this, you know, the softtail, the grubs and T-tail fishes and all that. The tick on a rubber is a much more gentle tick, whereas when I throw a jig fly, the tick is more aggressive. I don't know why. Okay, let's start. First of all, see this thing here? I need to flatten it. So that the thread can move up and down a lot smoother. So we'll start. Take about 5 or 6 reps and then cut the thread. Continue down. Maybe put a bit of super glue, just a small drop. If you want, you can take your Bobkin, or in this case a toothpick, and smooth it down. This is how the fly is going to be oriented in the water. So the top will be the darker color and the bottom will be a lighter color. Normally we'll start with the bottom. Is easier this way when the hook is oriented this way. So take a bunch of bucktail. Be careful not to take too thick a bunch, because later on you'll find that it's not easy to tie on. And secondly, the movement of the fly in the water, if you have too much bucktail, sometimes it's not very good. Okay, what I like to do is to take the longest strands, pull them out, align them with the shorter ones so that we get a more even spread. There are tools for this. I think the tool is called a deer hair stacker. Makes this a lot easier to do. Determine what length you want it to be, then cut it square like this. Place it gently. In the first few reps you need to be gentle, because if you don't, see what happens when you pull, the deer hair will flare. So you don't want this side to flare, so you need to be gentle at first to make the deer hair sit properly. Okay. Then later on you can put a little bit more pressure to make it sit well. Okay, always check on both sides that the deer hair is sitting nicely. As you turn, you put the pressure around this, the deer hair will start to move and cover this part more than this part. So it's always good to check whether this and these two end at the same place. Okay, so that is the bottom of the fly. If you want, you can add another dab of super glue. Okay, then just let it soak. Next, we're going to put a bit of flash to mimic the lateral line. You can use anything shiny. Yeah, normally I like to use about 3 or 4 strands. What I do is I find the center, see the whole length, find the center, hook it around the thread and then pull it up to where you want it to sit. I want it about here. Then make a few wraps. Thereafter, let it go. Take your scissors or your Bobkin, split them. So 4 per side. Now you can pull it down so that it will sit more to the side. This way. And then when you're happy, lock it down with the thread. Okay, so that's your lateral line. Next, we're going to do the back of the fly or the top of the fly. I've chosen to use this chartreuse bucktail again. Whenever you use a bucktail, you'll see there's tiny hairs and all that. I like to do this to get rid of them. Okay. Now we do the same thing with the longer hair. You can either make it slightly longer than the belly, or you can make it the same length. For me, I prefer to make it a little bit longer. It's purely preference. Again, you cut it square, place it on top. Again, make sure the first few wraps are not too tight, and then tighten them down later. Okay, in this case, a lot of the fibers, right, are sticking upwards too much. So how do you correct this? You hold it down and then make some gentle wraps. That way they will sit this way, sit lower. Okay. Super glue. Okay, this is the final and but totally optional step is to add some red crystal flash here to mimic the gills of the fish. In my fishing experience, I don't know whether it's just luck, but I find that when there is a red flash here, I don't know, it seems to get more bites. So how do you mimic gills? In the same way that you do the lateral line, but instead of 4 strands, I like to take maybe 6, sometimes even 8 strands. Okay. So same thing, find the center, wrap it around the thread, and then decide where you want it to go. Here. You don't want the gills to be too long. Normally about this much, about 1 centimeter. Then just snip it off. See? You naturally phrase outwards. And now you can tie off the fly. You can either end off with super glue or this UV resin. Be careful not to put too much of it. Just 1 small drop. And again with your toothpick. Just a light coating. Careful not to go over the and onto the bucktail, because it will harden and it will make that part very stiff. Okay. Yeah, you know how when you buy fly materials, they put FL behind the material, which means fluorescent. You can tell that the white is not very fluorescent because it's basically natural, the natural color of the deer. But I look at the chartreuse color. Chartreuse color is very, very luminescent under your ultraviolet light. That's because of the fluorescent dye that they use. So that's the difference. But whether it's better or not, I don't know. Okay, and that is the basic bucktail jig fly.